Shabbat Shalom. How wonderful to see everybody here this evening. As we welcome in Shabbat like a bride, we all turn to page 138 and sing with joy our song Lecha Dodi, welcoming in Shabbat. Let's see. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Lekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Lekavela. Shamor v'zachor v'diburecha, Nishiyanu el ha'mayuchad, Adonai echad u'shenorecha, v'shenu tiferet v'nikenima, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Lekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Lekavela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, Kiva orei, kuli ori, uri uri, shir davedi, kivod Adonai, alai milah, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Lekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Lekavela. Boi v'shalom ateret ha'ala, Kav v'simcha u'rtzona, Toch emunei am segula, Boi kala, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Lekavela. Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, B'nei Shabbat Lekavela.
Shabbat Shalom. It is so wonderful to be here on this fine Shabbat evening, joined by so many wonderful friends. A couple of announcements before our service begins. If you have a cell phone or any other electronic devices that make noise, you might want to do as I'm doing here, make sure that it's silenced in case you forgot. And or turned all the way off is even better. If you have any young children, we welcome them. I'm looking, I don't see any right now, but we're always happy to have children as a part of our service. If at any point during the service you need to leave the sanctuary, everything that is said in here can be heard from the Schimberg Graham Foyer where you came in. There are several times during the service where we will ask the congregation to rise, and if it is difficult for you to physically rise, you may, as the Talmud tells us, rise in your heart, while remaining seated. And finally, it is a pleasure not only to be joined by you out in the congregation this evening, but also to be joined on the bima by Cantor Canizaro and by Rabbi Simon. Thanks for being here. It is wonderful to have. It's wonderful to have Scott Schimberg as our pulpit guest and board representative this evening on this Shabbat. Maria Lauda bringing some beautiful music to our service as always. Welcome back. And a very special guest over on this side of the bima, Evan Salter, who is joining us in celebration of becoming bar mitzvah this Shabbat tomorrow morning. At this time, in fact, I would like to welcome Evan along with his parents and his brother, Kristen, Paul, and Destin, over to this side of the bima to lead us in the blessing over the candles and Kiddush. You may begin following along on page 121.
O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to know knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. We continue with our Kiddush on page 123.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who, finding favor with us, sanctified us with mitzvot. In love and favor, you made the holy Shabbat our heritage as a reminder of the work of creation. As first among our sacred days, it recalls the exodus from Egypt. You chose us and set us apart from the peoples. In love and favor, you have given us your holy Shabbat as an inheritance. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of the fruit of the vine.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu b'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'ratzon inchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh Bereshit, ki hu yom tehillah le'mikra kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki hanu b'chata v'yotanu ki
I'm reading now on page 124. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May this synagogue be for all who enter a doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. Page 144.
Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'almad yivrach edutei v'yamlich malchutei. Becha yechon u'yomechon u'v'chayedecho bet Yisrael. Bagala, bagala, u'vizman karim v'imeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'olam me'amaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishabach v'yitpa'ar yitroman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha.
Barechu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiram ve'alma v'yimeru. Amen.
We rise now as we turn to page 146 for the Baruch Hu.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Yalai, lai, 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 yalai, lai, lai, lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai, Hamevorach, le'olam va'ed, le'olam va'ed. Yalai, lai, lai, yalai, lai, 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 lai, lai.
I'm reading now on page 150. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Page 152 and 3. seated.
We continue together in Ve'ahavta on page 154. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha Veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha u'v'lechtecha v'derech u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot ayadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We read together on page 155. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. Let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God, who led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. We continue responsively in the middle of page 157. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
Page 158.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא, נורא, נורא תהילות, אוסף הלב. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש נורא, נורא, נורא תהילות, אוסף הלב. מלכותך רום פניך, בוקע יום לפני משה ומרים, זה לי, ענו ואמרו, מלכותך רום פניך, בוקע
I could hear the choir getting into that one. I'm reading now at the top of page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Page 162. Together in the middle of the page. The people of Israel shall keep Shabbat, observing Shabbat throughout the ages as a covenant for all time. It is a time for all time between me and the people of Israel. For in 6 days Adonai made heaven and earth, and on the seventh day God ceased from work and was refreshed.
Shameru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat, le'torotam berit olam. Ve'nir ve'in b'nei Yisrael, ve'nir ve'in b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat, le'torotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz vayom hashvi'i Shabbat, Shabbat vayinafas. V'shameru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, la'asot et HaShabbat, le'torotam berit olam.
We continue now with the tefillah beginning on page 164 and continuing on even-numbered pages through page 168. Please rise.
We're going to invite our bar mitzvah, Evan Salzer, up to lead us in the avot and the guvurot. He is so, you will enjoy this.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agita ilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Hastei Avot ve'imahot, Umevi geula livnei v'neihem, Lema'an shemo ve'ahava. Melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לך חיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום לחללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. Page 173. Please be seated.
I'm reading now in the middle of the page. Disturb us, Adonai, ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied with the peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, spiritual and physical, of humans. Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered by half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat. We continue on page 178.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim
we pause for a moment at this point in our service to say a prayer of healing. Saving this page to return to in a minute, we turn forward to page 371 for the Misha Beirach prayer. We pray for healing for all those who are in need of healing. We pray for God to be with all of those in our country and our world affected by violence or terror. We ask for God to watch over members of our armed services and our first responders and their families who miss them when they are away. Again, the Misha Beirach is on page 371. May God's healing come swiftly and soon to all of those who are in need of healing of body, mind, or spirit, as we say together, Amen. We continue now in silent prayer and meditation. You may use the words on pages 180 or 181 to guide your prayer, or the words written upon your own heart.
Adonai Tzuri ve'goali, Adonai Tzuri ve'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my Redeemer. Yihiu l'ratzon Tzuri vegoali Adonai Tzuri vegoali.
It's a good week for any rabbi when you get to teach Torah multiple times. And this week in particular, I've had 3 opportunities to teach this week's Torah portion. And both times up to now, I've focused on the same verse. We're in the 8th chapter of Deuteronomy, and the verse is Ve'achalta ve'savata uve'rachta et Adonai Elohecha. You shall eat, you shall be full, and you shall bless the Lord your God. This is the verse from which we get Birkat Hamazon, the blessing after the meal. So my first opportunity to teach was Monday evening at our board meeting. It was the first gathering of a new board of trustees. And I shared this verse and offered to the board that at the beginning of the year you might think that I would rather talk about the motzi than Birkat Hamazon, the blessing before the meal rather than the blessing after. But I suggested that if we remember that the beginning of one stage is the end of the one that came before it, we're better able to appreciate the blessings of learning from our past in order to better determine our future. And then this morning, as I was filming our Rabsgrams, the 1 minute of Torah video that you can find either on Instagram or Facebook if you're not following us, and you're on, don't get on Instagram or Facebook just for it, but if you're there anyway, let us join you. And again, I taught about Birkat Hamazon and the way in which this one verse of Torah becomes a fairly long prayer. One, in fact, that mimics the service that we just worshiped together. We begin with a psalm, just as we begin with Kabbalat Shabbat, continuing with a responsive prayer, the Chavarai Nevarech, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach Me'ata Ve'ad Olam, just like Baruch Hu, and as our service continues. And then there are 4 sections of themed blessings, all a paragraph or a little bit more, just like our service continues with sections of prayer. It's a long prayer. So long, in fact, that some traditionally observant Jews will avoid bread at a meal if they think the bread isn't worth it, and they know that if they eat bread, they're going to have to say Birkat Hamazon after the meal is over. The Talmud allows, however, for an abbreviated Birkat Hamazon if you really feel that you wouldn't be able to pray with intent, specifically if you find that you're in danger. And the extreme example comes from Binyamin the shepherd, who we're told would offer 1 verse after he ate. Barich Rachmana Malka de Alma Mare de Hai Pita. Blessed is the merciful one, sovereign of the universe, creator of this bread. I ended by saying it's not the size of the blessing that matters, but rather taking the time to appreciate the blessings we've been given. So if you saw the video, you got a reminder. If you didn't see it, you can skip it this week and join us next week. But as long as I'm on a roll with this one verse of Torah, and yes, if you did eat a roll with a verse of Torah, you would be obligated to bench Birkat Hamazon. I want to stick, thank you. Thank you. I wanted a roll. I'm on a roll with this verse of just making sure. And just as a good chef will offer one food 3 ways, I'll now offer this same verse of Torah in a 3rd way. But first, we need to look at the context in which we come to this verse. First, we're in the book of Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy, as I've explained often, is Moses' last words to the people. He's been leading us for 40 years, and he knows that he's not going to be able to enter the promised land. And I often compare this to a parent sending a child to college for the first time. Moses is very worried that we are going to forget everything that we've been taught once he's no longer standing over us, and we'll go back to all of our old ways. So the whole book of Deuteronomy, Evan will tell us, is rewards if you follow the laws, curses if you don't. This Torah portion in a different section is Moses kind of the ultimate guilt trip. Remember when I did this for you? Remember when I did this for you? I went through so much pain to get you here. No mother has ever said that to her child. Really laying it on. When I'm not with you anymore, please don't forget me and don't forget what you're supposed to do. And now we come to chapter 8 of Deuteronomy. Remember, Moses reminds us, God made us wander in the wilderness for 40 years to test whether or not we would lose faith when things were hard. God subjected you to the hardship of hunger, we read, and then gave you manna to eat, which neither you nor your fathers had ever known, in order to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but that man may live on anything that God decrees. The clothes upon you did not wear out, nor did your feet swell over those 40 years. Now, many of us know the story. We did complain when things got hard, and we were often punished for it. But in spite of the hardships and the complaints and the punishments and the repetition of that cycle, here we were 40 years later, still gathered, ready to enter the land. We may have gone astray, but we never ran away. Moses continues, "For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land now, a land with streams and springs and fountains issuing from plain and hill, a land of wheat and barley, of vines, figs, and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land where you may eat food without stint, where you will lack nothing, a land whose rocks are iron and from whose hills you can mine copper." This land we're entering is the opposite of the wilderness, the opposite of hardship. And now our verse, "When you have eaten your fill, give thanks to the Lord your God for the good land which God has given you." Take care, Moses warns, lest you forget the Lord your God and fail to keep the commandments, rules, and laws which I enjoin upon you today. When you have eaten your fill and have built fine houses to live in, and your herds and flocks have multiplied, and your silver and gold have increased, and everything you own has prospered. When you have your own apartment and you think you can get away with anything, beware lest your heart grow haughty and you forget the Lord your God, who freed you from the land of Egypt, the house of bondage, who led you through the great and terrible wilderness with its serpents and scorpions, a parched land with no water in it, who brought forth water from you from the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness, in order to test you by hardships, only to benefit you in the end. And you say to yourselves, I know you will. My own power and the might of my own hand have won this wealth for me. Remember, it is the Lord your God who gives you the power to get wealth, in fulfillment of the covenant that God made on oath with your ancestors, as is still the case. The Akedat Yitzchak, a medieval philosopher, infers from this that there are 2 impediments that keep us from acting the way we should. One is having too little, and one is having too much. In the wilderness, the people were tested by barely having enough to get by. But once in the land, their test would be having everything they need and more. Of the two impediments, he wrote, having too much is undoubtedly the greater impediment on our path towards salvation. An excess of worldly goods acts as a greater hindrance to our achieving our spiritual goals than a shortage of such material possessions. We know, he wrote, of many poor people who became great Torah scholars, whereas only a few managed to combine both material wealth and great spiritual leadership in one person. The vast majority, he observed, were snared by material wealth to feed their own greed. As a result, all the good their wealth might have accomplished was wasted. Regardless of what we as individuals may have or lack, we are all at risk of both sides of this warning. When we are hungering for more than what we have, we risk hurting or neglecting others in order to get what we want. But when we feel we have everything we need, it is easy to relish in what we have to the point of blindness toward those who are where we once were. Those seeking daily manna, a gift from above, just to get by. The blessing before we eat, therefore, reminds us that even when we're hungry, we have to pause, to be grateful. We don't just dive in to satisfy our hunger. We have to be grateful that while we don't always have everything we want, more often than not, we do have what we need, and our actions should be directed by that knowledge. The blessing after we eat reminds us that even as we loosen our belts, rather than dwelling in the greatness of what we've accomplished, we have to remember how we got there and our duty to those who are in a different stage of that journey. Whether or not we offer an actual blessing before and after we eat. As we're beginning the process of preparing for our High Holy Days, may we think about how we act when we feel in need. May we never lose track of the blessings we have, and even when we are hungry, may we ensure not only that we are not pushing others aside in order to reach our goals, but that we are doing everything we can to bring them along with us. And when we are full, when we have had all we need, may our satiation never lead to ambivalence or worse, contempt for those who don't. And may we not only recognize our blessings, but may we share them as best we can. Beginning or end, long or short, hungry or full, may we never lose sight of how we got to this place. And may we always remain focused on that which we know is our role in helping our world to become that eternal blessing that it was created to be. Amen.
Rabbi, thank you for those kind words. And good evening. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to welcome all of our members, newcomers, and guests to Congregation Share Zedek. We look forward to visiting with you during the Onyx Shabbat after the service. Representatives of the board and past temple presidents are identified by our gold name plates. At Congregation Share Zedek, we pride ourselves on offering a wonderful variety of programs. Upcoming events will be listed on the back of your Shabbat program tonight, so take a look and see what you're interested in joining us for. Thank you, Dave Block and Jared Miller, for ushering this evening, and Mazel Tov to the Salzer family on Evan's Bar Mitzvah. Our clergy and staff are eager to greet visitors who are looking to learn more about our congregation. So immediately following services, clergy and staff will be moving into the Onyx Shabbat and stand at the membership table. We would love to visit with any visitors to stop by and ask any questions that we can answer. We encourage congregants to introduce yourselves to the guests tonight, and we will see you in the Oneg. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Scott. Our service continues back in our prayer book on page 586, the bottom paragraph of page 586, before we'll continue in the middle of page 591. Let us rise. Be seated. Page 593. The light of life is a finite flame. Like the Shabbat candles, life is kindled, it burns, it glows, it is radiant with warmth and beauty. But soon it fades, its substance is consumed, and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance, and our life burns down and gutters. There is an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen, yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. On this Shabbat, we remember those who have recently been laid to rest, those for whom we are in the period of Shloshim. Morton Cooper, Muriel Rothbaum, Bruce Tischler, Bert Osiason, Harriet Simont, and Marcus Wiley Culverhouse. We also remember those whose yahrzeit, the anniversary of whose passing, occurs at this time. Stanley Abrams, Cheryl Albert, Olga Astor, Phyllis Borkham Benware, Clarence Collin, Mark Denton, Paul Edinson, Stephen Feldman, Berkeley A. Flom, Sonia Foster, Rosalie Glegov, Lori Glickman, Howard Lee Goldstein, Anne Fries Gross, Stephen Grupp, Betty Grootman, Eve Mostav Hartman, Bertha Jacobson, Arnold Kotler, Marvin Quitko, Mary Levetre, Margot Levin, Ethel Levitt, Samuel Lopman, Jerry Marvin, Morton B. Meller, Arthur Mendelowitz, Sharon Mendelson, Gertrude Rakoff Moses, Dorothy Nelson, David Ostroff, Anita Pecker, Norman Rosenthal, Ethel A. Rothenberg, Irma Schoen, Rachel Leah Schwach, Grace C. Smith, Marguerite H. Spitz, Harry N. Stein, Melvin Stein, Rose Turkel, Nathan Tischk, Francis Fox Tots, Gilbert Tufel, Herbert William Weinstein, Leo Weiss, Ada Mae Wolf, and Albert Zuckerman. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be a blessing as we remember each of them along with all of our loved ones who are no longer with us. who, though unmentioned, are always in our hearts. We rise as we join together in Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish, offering thanks to God for having shared such special lives with us, even as we mourn their loss. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, V'chayechon u'vyomechon, U'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, B'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekudesha barichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalama rabam nin shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom dimromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved, as we say together, amen. Our closing song this evening is Adon Olam, which can be found on page 625.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'ed nazar b'chesed kol azay melech shemo nikra ve'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora ve'hu haya
It is wonderful having so many of our B'nai Mitzvah students here tonight. The school year is back. I know you guys are as excited as we are. So I'm going to ask Evan to come take our challah. Destin, did we lose Destin? Destin, if you'll come join in, all of our young people 18 and under, if you'll come join them on the bima to lead us in our motzi. I was just talking about how great you all are, so you have to come. All right. So you can all put a hand on the challah, and we'll sing together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. You can all tear off a piece of challah. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai varech et amo v'shalom. May God give strength to this people, blessing this and all peoples, with the ability to bring all of our blessings together, to bring peace to our world. As we say together, Amen. Shabbat Shalom.